What's up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's happening with the economic calendar approaching tomorrow and what the trusts are telling us about what's going to likely happen going into tomorrow as well. But just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $2,000 or more, you're guaranteed 30 in total, not to mention 8.1% APY in uninvested cash. It's off ends at the end of March, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with the markets. So as far as SPY is going, as you guys can see, we're breaking structure right here. We had this blue trend line acting as resistance. We're actually breaking this on the 4-hour time frame. We were expecting this to get a nice continuation, especially after Trump's inauguration, and so far the market remains more bullish. So looking at the markets, there is a sea of green today. The large majority of stocks are in the green. Tesla saw a bit of a dump because of the EV mandate shifts, but what happened was over time, buyers came back and Tesla was only down 0.5%, which is nothing, right? Tesla still got a decent close. But then Apple was one of the only main red ones because of some bad news that came out for them. What happened was we ended up seeing their sales decline in China for the month of December because of increased competition and factors like that. And then simultaneously, we had JP Morgan, which cut their price targets to about $260 a share from $265 before. So their price target did go down just a little bit, and that ended up negatively affecting the share price. Besides that, though, the majority of stocks were in the green, looking at like Google, Meta, big tech, looking at Amazon and all these different sectors. The market still held up very, very nicely. So what's happening so far? What on earth is going on? Just know that for tomorrow, it's going to be Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025. In the morning, we have some mortgage data, but it's all very, very minor, nothing too serious. Then we have the Red Book coming out at 8:55 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Besides that, there's nothing too significant coming out, just a bill and bond auction at 11:30 and then 1 p.m. And for now, the market has some leeway to do its things without being as dictated by data. So that's a good sign for the markets. We also had some earnings that came out, okay? In the morning, I talked about Charles Schwab. They had good earnings. That's why the share price went up. Then we just got Netflix and United Airlines. So Netflix is absolutely insane, breaking all-time highs, absolutely exploding after earnings just came out. We saw their revenue up 16% to about $10.25 billion. That is above what the analysts were expecting. And also their EPS was at about $4.27 per share. That's also above expectations. So good growth overall. They also ended 2024 with 302 million members, which is absolutely insane, achieving 19 million net new members in Q4. This is the last quarter Netflix will report membership and etc. on a quarterly basis. They also mentioned that for the fiscal 2025, revenue is expected to be around $43.5 to $44.5 billion. That's $500 million in previous expectations. So they raised their guidance to some extent, and they had good earnings. The last thing is that they had this massive share repurchase by about $15 billion. That is very, very bullish news, very good for investors. That's why the share price is exploding, hitting all-time highs. United Airlines also had very, very good earnings. Looking at the numbers, they had earnings at about $3.26 per share. That's above $3.03 expected. Net income is up by about $1 billion, surpassing projections. And then moving forward, their 2024 overall EPS was at $10.61 per share. That is above what we previously expected, so not bad. For 2025, we're also expecting them to increase their EPS, so it's better than expected. And then the revenue is about the same, so good guidance overall, good growth, and etc. That's why the share price is up for United Airlines. The last thing I'm going to talk about is this right now. So the market had a lot of fear before. There was a lot of fear in the markets going into like last week or before that. And so far, like very slowly, the market is just seeing this subside, and we're getting very, very close to neutral. So this is a sign that there's a lot more buyers who are coming back. They're shifting things to a larger extent, and the market may get very close to neutral as soon as tomorrow. Momentum indicators were at extreme fear. Now that they're slowing down, and now we're going to get very close to neutral soon. So this is a good sign that the market's bouncing. The S&P 500 came very close to its very key support at the 125 daily moving average. So we're trying to bounce off that, which is a very, very good sign. The puts to call option ratios at fear, this is starting to dip a bit as we're starting to see some of these puts being closed and more call buying in the markets, which is a sign that the bulls are gaining some control. The VIX is also dumping. We're losing our 50 daily moving average, which is a sign of weakness for the VIX, which tends to prioritize and suggest that the bulls have a bigger edge. So that being said, what do I see for the markets moving forward? I'm just going to focus on the charts from this point on and nothing else. So from what I'm seeing, okay, we were talking about how since Trump's inauguration, we were expecting upside for the markets. Like I said before, the large majority of stocks are in the green. That is the effect that his inauguration had. Now, I don't think SPY is done yet because, as you can see, we have a lot of momentum that's building on our momentum indicators. Our EMAs are looking very strong, and we got a nice breakout right over here. So it's still looking quite bullish. If SPY turns around, just hypothetically, when we lose 600, then yes, we could be dipping back down to 597 to fill the gap or even lower levels. As long as we're above 600, we favor upside, and we could be looking for 605 as our target or all the way up towards these all-time highs. I'm favoring that SPY has this bullish divergence in a breakout, and we could be on our way up closer to all-time highs as more buyers come back. However, I would not be overly optimistic in a way where I think we're just going to shoot through all-time highs like it's nothing. I still think we're going to be approaching some tough resistance, and you want to be very careful. So my prediction is this. I think SPY is going to continue to push to 605 to 608. This also happens to be the chop zone that SPY was in for a long period once we hit those all-time highs. I think we re-entered this chop zone between 605 to 608, and we'll see if SPY gets a rejection or not off of that. For now, look for a bit more upside and then watch for some tough resistance, and we'll see what kind of reaction we get. I also say this because when you look at the daily time frame, we look very bullish right now. We look like we're trying to get back up to this liquidity zone. So I favor upside a bit more, but just be a little bit careful once we approach those all-time highs. On to the QQQ, we also look a bit more bullish. We're seeing some more buyers who are stepping in, and we're starting to see more of them, a lot of things that are going on, at least thus far. So from the way I see things, now if we were to start dipping, just hypothetically, if we end up losing support at this 523 area on the QQQ, we could be dipping back down towards 520. That would turn us back down if that ends up failing. And if we end up breaking resistance, we're looking for 527.5 to break. If that breaks, we're looking for an attempt to get back up towards 530. So going into tomorrow, I'm going to be a little bit cautious with this because 527 and 530 are going to be some tough areas. I think we're going to be pushing for 527.5, and we'll see if that resistance breaks or not. If so, we could be going to 530. So 527 to 530 should be tested on the QQQ, and we'll see if we reject off that level or not. It's going to be a tough resistance. So just be a little bit careful, but I favor upside a little bit more. For the IWM Russell 2000, we're also favoring upside a little bit more. We have this imbalance up here. So if we could try to break past 230, we're looking for an attempt to get back up towards 231.75. And if we turn back down, okay, if we end up losing the support right over here around this 228 area, we're looking for this dip back down to 226. Also, the gap fill back down to 225. I think that the Russell is going to try to test the 230 to 232 area, and we'll see if we get some kind of rejection or not off of that. But for now, I do anticipate a little bit more upside. It's still doing a good job at holding up. It might turn later on, though, because we still have this big gap to fill down here. So look for a test of 230, maybe a little bit above that, and we'll see if we turn back down. Be a little bit careful with the IWM and many of these ETFs because we're approaching some tough resistance. On ES, my target was the 6100 plus area, and we're very close to that. So I think that, yes, we'll be pushing for the 6100s. If we were to hypothetically lose the 6070 area, very close to that, this previous top right here, there's going to be a risk of this dipping back down to 6038 or below. However, for now, looking at this bullish divergence and double bottom, I think that we favor upside on ES for 6100. And if we break that, we're looking for essentially 6120. So I favor upside on ES. I think there's a good chance we try to push higher, and we'll see what ends up happening, at least as time goes on. For NQ, we'll see how this ends up going. If we could try to break past 21,800 and hold that, we're looking for essentially 22,000 as our target. And if we end up rejecting, we end up losing, just hypothetically, 21,750. Be a little bit careful because I'm going to be looking for this test of 21,580. So what I anticipate is that we're going to be pushing a little bit higher on NQ because we have this inverse head and shoulders. But be careful the closer we get to 22,000 because that's going to be a very tough resistance. And we'll see if the market tries to break that or not. But I think that we push a bit more between 21,900 and 22,000. We'll see if we get a rejection or not. There's a little bit more upside left, but be careful once we hit that resistance. For Bitcoin, So this is very interesting. We have this nice accumulation, but notice that once we get close to 108,000, we tend to reject. And as we get very close to about the lower 100,000s, we tend to get bought back up. So I think that looking at this structure, there's going to be a risk of this dipping a little bit lower towards 104,000. And we'll see if we get a bounce off that or not. There might be a small dip here, and we'll see if some buyers defend this or not. So give this some time to perpetuate. But just know that I think Bitcoin's going to be looking for a retest of our 20 EMA around 104,000. And we'll see if buyers defend or not. So give this some time. For a few more factors, we have Nvidia. If Nvidia loses 140, we're looking for essentially 137. As long as we hold above that, though, we could be looking for 144 to 145, and eventually these higher levels. So notice that Nvidia, for the last couple of months, it's been going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth between supply and demand. And in this case, I'm favoring it's going to try to go a little bit higher as long as 140 does not break. We're looking for an attempt to get up to about 144 to 145 right up here. If that breaks, we're going up to about 150. So I anticipate a little bit more upside for the mid 140s or above. For Tesla, okay, Tesla is looking interesting. There was a little bit of weakness that came to Tesla because of the fact that there was bad news involving some EV mandate shifts. But the good news is that we held support. We held this support close to 413-ish. We held this near our 50 EMA. So as long as we hold this, we could continue to uptrend. If Tesla were to lose 413 to 410, that entire like 410 area, I'd be looking for this thing to start dipping back down to about 402. So please remember that level for tomorrow. But as long as we hold it, then it's the opposite. This will continue to uptrend. So for now, it's looking like we haven't lost the support. We're going to continue to do something like this. We dip tomorrow. We'll just try to bounce off this and just continue to ride this trend line up and slowly make our way back up to the 430s as the most likely possibility. But that depends on if it can hold support or not. So give this some time to develop, and we'll see how things end up going. This blue trend line of support has been holding us up since October, so I hope that this continues to hold. As long as it holds, we will continue to uptrend for the 430s all over again. For Apple, okay, Apple's on a bit of a downtrend here, but here's the thing. We're trying to hold the support right here around this 220 area. If we lose this, we could be dumping all the way down towards this 216 zone. And if we bounce off 220, we're looking for an attempt to get back up to 225. Now, looking at the fact that this is dumped really hard, there isn't a true sign of a bounce yet, but I do see some signs that there are buyers defending 220. We have this liquidity zone if you look at our volume profile and such. So I presume what's going to happen is Apple may try to rebound a little bit. It may try to retest around 225, and then we'll see if we get a rejection again off of that, because what this thing does is we get a big sell-off, we bounce a bit, we sell off a little bit more, we bounce, sell off more, bounce, sell off a bit, bounce, sell off, bounce, sell off, bounce. So it's looking like it's going to try to rebound a bit for 225, and we'll see if we get a rejection or not again off of that, depending on the news. So just keep that in mind. Look for a small rebound on Apple just to start things off. For a few more, we have Netflix. Okay, Netflix is at 1,000 almost. This thing is on fire. It's going to rockets to the upside because of some bullish earnings. We had a very, very nice buyback. They had a nice amount of growth in their subscribers in Q4. And then simultaneously, we got some good news that came out involving their earnings. So the share price is on fire. I do expect this to gap up tomorrow. We'll see if we can break 1,000 or not. The peak might be in. But overall, it remains bullish. If we break 1,000, we're going to continue to push for new all-time highs. For MSTR, we have a nice accumulation-like structure, but we start to dip a bit here. We need to try to see this thing break past 405. If that's the case, we're looking for essentially 415. And if we end up losing support at this 380 area, we're looking for essentially 372. I think what's going to happen is we're just range bound in the middle right now. There's a little bit of weakness here. Might dip closer to about this 380 support, and we'll see if we bounce off this. So we'll look for a small dip to 380, and we'll see if we hold that or not. If not, this could be dipping a little bit more. For Celsius, there's also a little bit of weakness on here. We're making lower highs and lower lows. I was hoping that this would form like a double bottom. We're not ready yet. We need to reclaim 27.5 to bounce for 28.5. If we can't do that, this is going to be favoring a move back down to 26 flat. As of right now, this is favoring 26, so just be very, very open to that. It's still showing weakness now. There may have been bad news that came out that's dictating this, so that's why the share price is starting to dip a bit. For Supermicro, we look a bit more bullish, trying to pump with Nvidia. This one has the double bottom that's now starting to form. As long as we don't lose 32, we're favoring a push for essentially 34, so just keep that in mind. For Palantir, If we end up losing 71, we're looking for a dip back down to 70 or if not 68. And as long as we're at this resistance, and as long as we don't lose that support, we're favoring more upside. We hit 75. We'll see if we could break 75 or not. If we do that, I'm looking for an attempt to get back up to 76.5 or higher. Right now, I think that Palantir is favoring an upside move, and we could be looking for an attempt to get back up towards 76.5 or higher. I think the 4 hour is looking more bullish, so give this some time to develop. For Rivian is completely range bound right here. We're going to be looking for essentially 13.2 as our main support. If that fails us, we could be tipping back down towards 12.7. If we bounce here, we're looking for an attempt to get back up to 14. Overall, what's not good about Rivian is the fact that we're making a lower high here. So that's a little bit of weakness that's developing, but we haven't lost the support yet at 13.2. So what I'm thinking is that there's going to be some kind of attempt by buyers to try to defend it like this, but then it could still reject because of the fact that there's a downtrend and some weakness. So look for a little rebound for essentially 13.5, and we'll see if we get some kind of rejection or not. For others out there, we have SoFi. SoFi is breaking this resistance, and overall, it's still looking bullish. As we talked about yesterday, we're looking for 18 to break. If that's the case, I'm looking for 18.5. Once again, it's doing a fantastic job, and it does favor the upwards direction, making new highs for the year in the last 6 months. So I think 18.5 is likely coming, so it looks a bit more bullish. AMD is looking decent, but the problem is that it's it really lacks volume. We're not getting a whole lot of volume right now. So if we were to hypothetically lose 120, we're looking for 118, which is where the gap is down here. So be careful. And as long as we hold 121.26, we do favor this trying to bounce. I'm a little concerned that this might pivot. I think we're going to consolidate between 123 and 121 for some time, and then we'll have to see which way we break to determine a much bigger direction. So give this some time to develop. For ARM, we look a bit more bullish. We formed a very, very nice double bottom. If we end up losing essentially 155, we're looking for a dip back down to 151.8. If we continue to push, we're looking for essentially 163. I think we favor upside on ARM a little bit more. We could be looking for 163, and we'll see what kind of reaction we get. So keep that in mind. For coin is looking like we have a nice double bottom right here. We're forming a nice W. If we could break 300, we're looking for an attempt to fill this imbalance for 308. And if we can't, we're looking for the support around this 290 area. If that fails us, we're looking for 282. So it could go either way, but I just want to say what's very good about this is the fact that this double bottom is forming. And I'm a little concerned about this because we're really struggling to break 300. That tends to favor that this might dip a bit, and we'll see if we bounce again. So what I think is very likely is we might dip to these EMAs down here in the 280s, and we'll see if we get a bounce like that. We'll see if that ends up holding or not. But for now, just look for a small dip just to start things off. Now, Amazon's doing a great job. It pumped exactly as you predicted yesterday, but the problem is we're approaching resistance around 233. So I think 230 to 233 is going to be a tough resistance. We'll see if we can hold 230. If we can't, we're going to be dipping back down towards 228. So watch to see what kind of reaction we get as we're at this resistance, and we'll have to see how things go. I think we could push to about 233, maybe a little bit higher, but then we'll see if we get a rejection back down to 228 as there's some tough resistance that's approaching. For Meta, okay, Meta has an inverse head and shoulders like structure. If we were to lose 612, we're looking for a dip lower, but this is still holding very, very nicely above support. So it's favoring that it wants to push up to 625 than 630. So I do see potential in this. Microsoft is looking a bit more bullish. Now, if we were to lose 428 and 426, we turn back down. As long as we hold support, we're looking for an attempt to get back up towards 435 or above. So I favor upside a little bit more. I think there's a good chance we try to push more from here. For Google also has this range. So the problem with Google is that when we hit 200, we tend to reject. So we hit 200, rejected. But then as we hit 190, we tend to bounce. So we're in a range right now. We hit resistance at 200. We failed to hold above it so far. So it looks like it's going to be dipping to 196.5. We'll see if we bounce off that or not. Look for a small dip on Google, and then we'll see if we get some kind of bounce. We need to break past 202 to remain bullish. Otherwise, we're just stuck in that range, which suggests there could be some downside first. For GameStop, this may try to rebound as we're forming a nice base over here. So it may try to rebound for 28.23. So we'll see what happens. AMC is also trading sideways, so it could be dipping closer to about 3.4. So we'll see what kind of reaction we get. DJT is rejecting here. Got a big sell-off after Trump's inauguration, so it could be dipping to about 34.6. The VIX is also dipping quite a bit. We're approaching support around 14.3. So it looks like it might dip a little bit more as the market tries to bounce a little bit more from here. But then just be careful because the market's going to be approaching some tough resistance. And we'll see where the VIX ends up basing at. It's getting very close to that. The 10-year is also dipping a bit, but whether or not this continues to see a big dump or a big bounce depends on FOMC, which is just about a week away from now. And then the dollar is coming down, which tends to be bullish for the markets. If we lose 108, this will be dipping more. It's barely at support, so that makes me say that the market is still bullish. So for now, SPY, the QQQ, and most of these tickers are bullish, but just be careful as we're approaching some tough resistance near the all-time highs between 605 and 608 for SPY. And also for the QQQ, we're hitting some tough resistance between 527 and 530, so just be careful. Tesla's also holding support just barely, so we'll see if this holds at least going into tomorrow. But with that being said, guys, I thank you all so much for listening. I will be back with another upload tomorrow morning before market open. Until then, I just wish the best for everyone. I thank you all so much for your attention. Have a good day, guys. I'll see you guys very soon tomorrow, and peace out.